discuss the another very important topic is classification of fungi. Before we have discussed the only general characters of fungi, now we are going to discuss the classification of fungi. So, classification of fungi based on the morphology of mycelium and the mode of spore formation. Based on the morphology of mycelium and spore formation, so it's again classified into four types. It is Phycomystis, Ascomystis, Basidiomystis and Deuteromystis. So fungus again classified into how many types? So this fungus again classified into four types, that is Phycomystis, Ascomystis, Basidiomystis and Deuteromystis. So first one is Phycomystis. So what about actually Phycomystis? Phycomystis is also known as lower fungi and it is also known as algal fungi. Okay, so Phycomystis is also known as lower fungi and it is also known as algal fungi. So they are occurring actually aquatic habitat. Phycomystis are mostly present in actually aquatic habitat and decaying wood and moisture areas and damp places. And they are most of the Phycomystis, they are obligated parasites. Okay, most of the Phycomystis fungus, they are obligated parasites in plants. Okay, these mycelium are generally accepted and cenocytic. It is very important. So this fungus, Phycomystis mycelium is so accepted and cenocytic hyphae. So mucor and rhizopus, so they are bread mold, and albugo is a parasite on mustard leaf. Okay, mucor and rhizopus, they are actually, it is known as actually bread mold. They are from actually bread mold, and albugo it is a parasitic fungus on mustard leaf. Albugo is a parasitic fungus and mustard leaf. So now Phycomystis asexual reproduction. So Phycomystis asexual reproductions are mostly occurs to the zoospores or non-motile aplanospores. Okay, they are having actually two types of spores are there. One is zoospores. Zoospore is actually motile, aplanospore is non-motile. Okay, and this production is actually sporangium. So these zoospores and aplanospores, they are gives rise to sporangium. Next, sexual reproduction. So fusion of two gametes and form zygospores. And gametes are generally isogametes, anisogametes and oogametes. So what about actually isogametes? Isogametes means both gametes are similar in structures. That is known as actually isogametes. Both gametes are generally similar in structure. That is known as isogamy. Anisogamy means both two gametes are dissimilar in structures. That is known as anisogamy or oogamy. Oogamous. Next. So example of Phycomystis. So example of Phycomystis. How can remember? RAM, R-A-M. RAM. So R means rhizopus, A means mucor. A means albugo, M means mucor. Okay. So rhizopus is formation of bread mold, and albugo is, they are actually parasitic fungus. It is a parasitic fungus on mustard leaf, and M means mucor. Okay, it is the example of, they are the example of Phycomystis. So next class is Ascomystis. Okay, next class is actually Ascomystis. What about actually Ascomystis? So this Ascomystis, it is also known as sac fungi. Okay, so they are unicellular yeast cell. So which one is the unicellular? Yeast cell is actually unicellular, and multicellular is which one? Penicillium is actually multicellular. Okay. So this mycelium is branched and septate. Mycelium is actually branched and septate. Before we have discussed, phycomycetes they are actually septate and sinusoidal. Now it is branched and septate. Now it is branched and septate. They are saprophytic, decomposers, and parasitic and caprophilous. Okay, they are actually saprophytic, decomposers, parasitic, and caprophilous. So what about actually caprophilous? Caprophilous means this fungus are mostly growth in actually dung areas. Means growing actually dung, cattle dung, anything. Okay, so that is actually it is the example of Ascomycetes. Okay. Next, characters of Ascomycetes. So reproduction of Ascomycetes. So asexual reproduction. By asexual reproductions are mostly occurs through the conidia. The conidia produced exogenously, and the special mycelium is called as conidiospores. Here the number of spores are there. That is actually conidiospores. That is actually conidia. These conidia are generally formed from conidiophores, and this conidiophores undergoes exogenously. Exogenous means production of spores outside. Exogenously means outside. Endogenously means inside. Okay. So this endospores, this conidiospores, the conidiospores are produced spores. They are exogenously. Conidiospore or conidiophores are produced spores only exogenously. Okay. Exogenously means outer side. Next, conidia germinate. These conidia or spores are germinated and it gives rise to mycelium. Conidia produced and it gives rise to mycelium. Next, sexual reproduction in Ascomycetes. So this is sexual reproduction. Ascospores produced endogenously in sac, and sac-like structures is known as actually asci. Ascospores produced in endogenously, and it is known as asci. It is known as actually asci. These asci are arranged and form of fruiting bodies is called as ascospore. Asci are arranged in and form of fruiting bodies. Asci are arranged in different structures and form of fruiting bodies is called as actually ascocarp. It is known as actually ascocarps. Okay. So this ascocarp, so globules ascocarp without opening. Okay, globules ascocarp. Here the globules ascocarp is there. So without opening, globules ascocarp without opening structures is there. That is known as actually clistothecium. That is known as actually clistothecium. Next, flask-shaped ascocarp with apical part opening. Flask-shaped ascocarp here. So see here another one images is there. So it's flask-shaped ascocarp with apical opening. Apical part is consists of a small opening point that is known as actually perithecium. That is known as perithecium. We are discussing clistothecium and perithecium. In this clistothecium, ascocarp apical part does not opening. In perithecium, ascocarp apical part is open. Means it is considered a small opening point. So that part is known as actually perithecium. And saucer or cup-shaped structure. Saucer or cup-shaped structure is known as apothecium. Saucer or cup-shaped structures is known as actually apothecium. So this clistothecium, apothecium, and perithecium, they are mostly present in Ascomycetes. Next, so example of Ascomycetes. So what is the example of Ascomycetes? ACP. ACP. How can you remember? ACP. A means Aspergillus, C means Claviceps, P means Penicillium. Okay, ACP. So Aspergillus, Claviceps, and Penicillium. They are the example of Ascomycetes. And another one example is also be there, that is Neurospora. This Neurospora is very, very important. Okay. So what is the main conclusions of neurosporas? What is the main important points in neurosporas? These neurospora are mostly used in biochemical and genetical work. These neurospora are extensively used in actually genetical work and biochemical purpose. Okay. Many members like that. Morels and truffles are edible mushrooms also included in Ascomycetes. Morels, truffles and some other edible mushrooms. And some other edible mushrooms also included in Ascomycetes. Okay, now finished Ascomycetes. Now we are going to another one is Basidiomycetes. Okay, now we are going to another one is Basidiomycetes. So, what about actually Basidiomycetes? This Basidiomycetes is also known as puffballs or club fungi and tophels. Okay, so they are the Basidiomycetes. Okay, Basidiomycetes is also known as club fungi, puffballs and mushrooms. They are actually mushrooms. So in these mushrooms, means in Basidiomycetes are generally included in mushrooms, bracket fungi and puffballs. Mushrooms, bracket fungi and puffballs. So they are mostly growing actually soil and logs, tree stumps and living plant. These Basidiomycetes are mostly growing actually which areas? Soils, unlogs, trees or tree stumps and living plants like parasites. Living plants like that, parasites like rusters and smuts. Okay, this mycelium is branched and septate. Here, mycelium is branched and septate. Before clause, that is also branched and septate, and before first clause is that is aseptate and cenocytic. It is very, very important. Okay, next. So, reproductions. Asexual spores are generally not found in Basidiomycetes. Asexual reproductions is mostly not found in Basidiomycetes. But vegetative reproductions is common in Basidiomycetes. Vegetative reproductions is commonly occurs in Basidiomycetes, but asexual reproductions is commonly absent. Sex organs also be absent. Means sexual reproductions also be absent in Basidiomycetes, but plasmogamy occurs by fusion of two vegetative or somatic cells and different strains and or genotypes. What are those? Sexual reproductions are absent, but plasmogamy occurs by the fusion of vegetative and somatic cells of different strains or genotypes. And resultant structures, dikaryotic gives rise to basidium. Dikaryotic phase gives rise to basidia. This dikaryotic phase gives rise to basidium structures. And this basidium, so basidium is there. That basidium is karyogamy and meiosis occurs in that basidium. Karyogamy and meiosis are occurs in basidium and producing actually 4 basidiospores. How many spores are produced? 4 basidiospores. They are exogenously. They are producing actually exogenously. These basidia are arranged and fruiting bodies is called as basidiocarps. Basidia are arranged and form of fruiting bodies is called as basidiocarps. Okay. Example is Agaricus, Eustylago and Fuchsinia. Agaricus is mushrooms, Eustylago is smut and Fuchsinia is rust fungi. It is known as rust fungus. Next clause is Deuteromycetes. Okay. Before we are already discussed Phycomycetes, Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. Now we are going to discuss the another very important clause. So that is Deuteromycetes. So what about actually Deuteromycetes? This Deuteromycetes is also known as imperfect fungi. Deuteromycetes is also known as actually imperfect fungi. So commonly known as, it is known as actually imperfect fungi. So because it's only their asexual and vested phases are very well known that. Okay, based on this asexual reproduction and vegetative reproduction, it is included in only ascomystis and vegetomystis classes. When they are going to sexual reproduction, it is moves to the another classes. So that's why we are completely described. So this Deuteromystis is also known as imperfect fungi. Why? Because it is called as imperfect fungi. So mostly vegetative reproductions and asexual reproductions are commonly occurs. Okay. And when there occurs a sexual reproduction, that time it is moves to the another classes. So that's why it is called as this imperfect fungi. So based on the ascomystis and vegetomystis, it is called as imperfect fungi, and it is also known as Deuteromystis. And it is also possible that our asexual and vegetative stages have been given one or more placing under the Deuteromystis. So means it is mostly based on vegetative and asexual reproduction. At the sexual stage, name is placing to the another one class. Before it is having that class is there, the vegetative reproduction, asexual reproduction, that time it is included in ascomystis and vegetomystis. When the sexual reproduction occurs, that time it moves to the another class. So that's why it is known as it is imperfect fungi. Okay. Now, Deuteromystis reproduce only asexual spores by conidia, and mycelium is septate and branch. Mycelium is septate and branch. So, majority of the Deuteromystis members are generally saprophytic or parasitics. Majority of the Deuteromystis members are generally saprophytic and parasites. And some other decomposers also be there. So, litter and help in the mineral recycling or mineral cycling. Here very important point is there. This Deuteromystis are mostly helps in actually recycling of minerals. So, now example of Deuteromystis. So, example of Deuteromystis is ACT. Before we are going to discuss the ACP, now we are going to discuss the ACP. Okay. So, what is actually ACP? ACT. So, A means alternaria, C means colitotrichum, T means trichoderma. Okay. A means what is that? Alternaria. A means alternaria, C means colitotrichum, T means trichoderma. They are the example. Okay, they are the example of, it is the example of Deuteromystis. Okay, so thank you one and all and watching this video. So now finish the fungus. Now we are going to discuss the plant kingdom and animalia. We will discuss the another class. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for watching this video.